So, good morning, everybody. Nice to hear you. I'm Francesca Novella, a policy officer, assistant, and project manager from Foxy. We are really happy and honored to join you in this second MedSpring Science Cafe to discuss together the issue of the role of local innovation in sustainable development. Let me bring you the greetings from our President, Mr. Gianfranco Cattai, and our Director, Toscani. I would like to briefly introduce you, Foxy, so that it could be more clear our link with the issue we're talking about today, that is the local innovation and the role of local innovation for sustainable development. Foxy is the main Italian federation of international volunteering scientific organizations of Catholic inspiration, and we are based in 1962. Our federation counts actually more than 70 members, that is NGO members. And we are present today in 80 countries with more or less 660 projects. We work in the traditional areas of the development and cooperation projects, covering different issues as human rights, agriculture and food security, health and sanitation. So in a way, the traditional area of the cooperation and development. At the same time, that is, over the projects, Foxy as a federation is deeply involved in lobbying and advocacy activities within different networks at national, European and international level. This in a way allows us to work in a parallel way on the ground with our projects in the global south, together with our local partners and local communities, and on a political level with our partners in a constant debate with the international and European institutions to try to work to influence the international and European policies on the issues we are working on the ground. And thus allow me to, in a way, go deeply in the thing that we are talking about in this Science Cafe, because Foxy elaborated a document, a political document, in occasion of the Expo 2015 that, as I suppose all of you knows, deal with the theme of food security and is closing right in the States. This document were in second time assumed by one of the main Italian network of NGOs, that is the Forum Terzo Settore, that includes many of the third sector organizations in Italy. In this document are in a way underlined the position of the third sector organizations on the issue of food security, on the theme of food security, and is a political document because in a way it represents the position of the third sectors and the requirements of the third sectors to the international policies and politicians. And this document that was composed of 12 points, I think that we could focus on 3 or 4 of those points that could, in a way, be useful for our discussion and could bring some suggestions to the debates that you had in Cairo. Of course, I'm sorry, really, I would like to thank you, Reem, and all our colleagues for their interesting discussions that they had. So thank you very much. Of course, we followed all your discussions, and it was really interesting for us to do that. In this document, of course, we start saying that the problem of hunger and food wastes are two pathologies of the same malfunctioning economic systems that consider the food as a commodity. While we know, of course, and you and I know that all of you agree on the fact that food is not a commodity, of course, but is a fundamental right for people because it's linked to the right to life. Right to food, it's in a way the right to life, so it's the main human right. This system is unfair and we need to change it. The point is how we want the system to be changed and the direction that we want to bring to those changes. Maybe one of the main issues is not really the production of food, I mean the quantity of food that is produced today, but the distribution of food that is deeply unequal, both within countries and both between countries. So this unequal distribution is one of the main causes of the hunger today and of the battle to the access of food and to the access of natural resources. So we need to change this model of distribution and we need to create new food democracies, as the past special rapporteur of the United Nations on food security said, that is Olivier de Schutter. And if we talk about food democracies, we are shifting our attention because we are, in a way, rethinking food security in terms of food sovereignty. That means to focus our attention on local communities and local farmers to be the first actors to decide freely how to guarantee the right to food to their own community. Talking about food democracy means to regulate and decrease the concentration of the power of markets in food and agriculture. Because the increasing power of business and market on these issues are causing and caused increasing battle and struggles for the access to resources, and especially, of course, water, land, and seeds, and having bad consequences, for example, on the fluctuation of the prices of the food. Food democracy means, in other terms, guarantee the right to land farms. Nowadays, still land reforms are one of the main essential policies of the global South countries, especially in Africa, we know. And we know that when we talk about food security and more specifically food sovereignty and new food democracy, we are talking about the central and strategic role of the small farmers and of the small producers, as nowadays more, as you know, of course, more than 75% of the world food production is guaranteed by the family farmers. So the role of the family farmers in assuring the right to food, so in fighting against the main cause of death today, that is still the hunger, is exactly played by the small farmers and the family farmers model. And despite of this, we know that these models are today deeply threatened by the rising pressure of different model production, food model production, particularly by the agricultural industrialization, that is, by the agro-industry. Thus, that follows different principles and in which the role of the international companies, the role of the private sector interests is having a growing wage, and of course is in a way completely in contrast with the principle that we are talking about till now. Of course, we know that the small-scale farming is not only the main actors that guarantee the production of food, but is at the same time the main guardian of biodiversity, as this model is the one that could best respond to the impact that the climate changes has on the land. So in a way that could guarantee the resilience of the local agriculture and of the local food production model. So the role that the model of family farming plays are extremely complex, but really central to guarantee the right to food and the food sovereignty. In this context, the document dedicates a specific point to the role of the scientific and technological change that should not be guided by market interest, but inspired by the principle of food sovereignty. What does it mean? It means that we know that to build sustainable development for the local communities, that is, to build local resilience and sustainable food production model, we need to have a mixed approach and to foster the cooperation between different actors, not only the classic actors of the cooperation and development, that is the NGOs, together with the local communities, but we need to create this integrated approach between NGOs, local communities, institutions of research and of technological institutes to bring the added value of the scientific and technological research and change to build a sustainable development at local level with the local communities. So this is in a way, as I can say, the experience that we bring from our work on the ground with our project in the Global South countries. And the scientific and technological innovation, of course, as we said, should be inspired by the principle of food sovereignty. Means that the innovation should be oriented to an agroecological system of production, so that it could support the creation of a local model of production of food that could be sustainable. And when we talk about sustainable development, we know that we are talking about a sustainability that implies different aspects. So the political aspects, the social aspects, the economic aspect, and the environmental aspects. So the sustainable development that the small farming model of production of food could build on the ground is exactly sustainable, considering all these aspects. And this is essential even in an international way, because we know that if we don't really build sustainable development process, we can't face the great challenge of the peace and of the fight against hunger. And just to go to the last point, all of this brings us to ask for international policies that support the role of small producers and of the family farming, that support the new model of cooperation between different actors that in international policies that build the framework within the other actors should move. So thus, in terms of private and public investments on food, that should be guided by these principles. A political framework on the access to land that should be guided on those principles, etc., etc. So, as federation and as representative of national and international networks, we asked for this kind of policies. This is our position in our debates and in our discussion with the international and European institutions on that. And so I think that my brief introduction could end, and I would like now to go more on the ground and more in detail, giving the word to my colleague Roberto Cerchina, that is overseas on-loose desk officer in Palestine and Sri Lanka. Overseas is one of the NGO, of the FOXI NGO member, and he could go, as I told you, more in details on the experience that we have on the ground on this kind of projects. And so thanks, of course, for your attention, and after that, if some questions rises from our table, we were happy to open the debate. So now I give the word to Roberto.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your kind invitation to this interesting discussion on innovation. So, as Francesca told you, I will focus my short intervention on innovation in the agricultural field. My NGO has been working on sustainable agriculture since the 70s in different countries. And in the last years, we focus our intervention also on seed conservation and genetic improvement using innovative breeding methodology. So the title of my intervention is Participatory Breeding Approach as Innovative Adaptation Strategy to Climate Change. Genetic improvement of seeds program managed by farmers and research centers. So Overseas has been working on conservation of seed biodiversity in Palestine since the last 4 years. And during this period, we established seed banks, research on farm on different varieties of legumes, and we collaborate with universities, laboratories, to analyze the different molecular characterization of the variety we work with. So we try to establish this, let's say, relation between NGOs, university, and public research centers. After this long period of work, we understood and we share with our local partners that, as I told you, are NGOs, public research centers, and also an international research center like ICARDA, that working on conservation of local seed varieties is an important and crucial step for the food sovereignty of a state, but is not enough to support the farmer in their daily struggle against poverty and mainly against the climate change. Conservation approach could ensure to keep the maximum of genetic variability under the state or civil society control, but it does not guarantee in itself improvement in productivity of the varieties under strong climate stress. And since most of the marginal producers that are targeted by development aid brought about the international NGO system are suffering from the climate change effects on the marginal land where they work, we decided to shift our strategy from conservation to plant genetic improvement. So during the last 2 years, we came in contact with Professor Salvatore Ceccarelli, who is an Italian professor of genetic resources and improvement at the Faculty of Agriculture in Perugia, and later he became researcher consultant for ICARDA in Syria, in Aleppo. In 1995, Professor Ceccarelli began experimenting with participatory breeding approach in countries like Syria, Jordan, Algeria, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Yemen, and Iran, with the aim of reconciling the increase of agricultural production, the increase of biodiversity, and adaptation of crops to climate change. So, what is participatory research in general? It's defined as a type of research in which users are involved in the design and not merely the final testing of a new technology. Participatory plant breeding, in particular, is defined as a form of plant breeding in which farmers, as well as other partners such extension staff, seed producer, traders, NGOs, participate in the development of a new variety. So the objective is to produce varieties which are adapted not only to the physical, but also to the socio-economic environment in which they are utilized. Technically, the process is similar to conventional breeding with 3 main differences. Testing and selection take place on farm rather than on station. Key decisions are taken jointly by farmers and the breeder, and the process can be independently implemented at a large number of locations. The model also incorporates seed production. Farmers handle the initial phases, multiplying, promising breeding material in village-based seed production system. The participatory plant breeding model is very flexible. It can generate population, pure lines, and eventually mixtures of pure lines in self-pollinated crops, as well as hybrids, population, and synthetics in cross-pollinated crops. Participatory plant breeding has several advantages. New varieties reach the release phase much faster than in conventional breeding and are better suited to farmer needs and willingness to invest in inputs and management. Release and seed multiplication activities concentrate on varieties known to be farmer acceptable. And this is very important, I think. These advantages are particularly relevant to developing countries where large investments in plant breeding have not yet yielded returns, and many improved varieties developed through conventional breeding are not adopted by farmers yet. So there is a distance sometimes between the research centers and the farmers. And with this methodology, we tried to make shorter this distance. Participatory plant breeding also ensures that biodiversity is maintained or increased because different varieties are selected at different locations. In addition to the economical benefit, participatory research has a number of physiological, moral, and ethical benefits, which are the consequence of the progressive empowerment of the farmer communities. This benefit affects sectors of their life beyond the agricultural aspect. So, in conclusion, the participatory plant breeding, as a case of demand-driven research, gives voice to farmers, including those who have been traditionally the most marginalized, such as the women, for example, and elevates local knowledge to the role of science. So now we decided to bring Professor Ceccarelli in Palestine and introduce him to our partners who are really interested to start some sort of research adopting this approach. At the moment, as I told you before, we are collaborating with a network of local NGO, research center, and university. But what is really interesting of this methodology is that once adopted by the farmers or by the Farmers Association, they are in a way independent from the public or private research centers, because having the know-how and the genetic materials is more than sufficient to develop any sort of genetic improvement of seeds. This is what happened, let's say, before the introduction of Green Revolution, where for millennia the farmers developed their own varieties by breeding year after year. After the Green Revolution, we can say that the knowledge, or let's say the scientific knowledge, was kept in the research centers, and so was created this distance between the research centers, public or private, and the farmers. So for us, this approach can stimulate innovation in the field of agriculture, matching the research center knowledge and the farmer experience, giving the farmers also the opportunity to be more independent and resilient to any political and environmental shock. Once Professor Ceccarelli told me that all the difficulties he met during his work in Syria was caused by the fact that in the research center, most of the public research center, there has a political guide. So once, let's say, the political framework change, usually happened that also the research center policy change. So he had experience that during a huge program working on participatory breeding, immediately the research center quit, and so he couldn't keep on working with the farmers. So he found a way to make the farmers and the association of farmers more independent and to work on their own to improve this genetic variability. So this is our, let's say, experience on the ground. We are also working with this methodology with Italian farmers as well, because I think at the moment the climate change, in a way, creates a global problem. So the strategy to face this problem are similar in different parts of the world, in the south like in the north. Okay, this is our experience. So thanks for your kind attention.
Thanks, Roberto. Really, thank you very much. I think that your intervention gave us really interesting elements to deep our discussion and reflection on the theme not only of sustainable development that is declined in terms of the role of farmers and local producers to guarantee their development and their food sovereignty, but also emphasizes two important elements, that is the control of resources, in particular seeds, by small producers, and how work on seeds is necessary in order to mitigate the climate change effects, and how we could really positively join the different actors on that, that is NGOs, local farmers and local communities, and the research and innovation technologies and institutes. All of this, of course, guided by the principle of guarantee of sovereignty, that is, in order to build the new food democracies which we are talking for. And of course, in all this, the role of the international policies is central, because we need international policies that support this role of local farmers, and that in a way allow us to work in this direction. And as we saw, the opportunity to work on seeds implies, in a way, appropriate regulation that maintain access and the potential for cooperation between farmers, research institutes, and NGOs. And thus, in a way, it's a way to go against the attempt of the great international companies to take the whole control of the market. So international policies that guarantee the access to natural resources, that guarantee the use of these natural resources in an autonomous way by the local farmers. And this is a really important passage of the intervention of Roberto, when he said that this new model allows farmers to work in an autonomous way, so without being dependent of external subjects, whatever they are, I mean, public or private actors, it doesn't matter. The point is that we don't want to have this form of dependence. So because this is this don't allow to build the new food democracy, and this is not going in the direction of the food sovereignty, because we understand perfectly the importance of decline the food sovereignty, the right to food in terms of food sovereignty. And this is we know that, for example, in the in the European Union, there were a great debate on the directive of seeds, and we know that the theme of seeds is really a critical one, because on the control of seeds and on the commercialization of seeds, there are many great economic and financial interests on the ground, and these interests have a really great role in the relation even with the local governments. We know that the power of money in this issue are still really great, but this is the space for the international policies. So this is the space where we ask for international policies to define the framework in which these different actors must move. And so, thank you really, Roberto. I think that you gave extremely interesting points to deepen our reflection on that. And now I would like to give the word to another colleague coming from the International Cooperation School that FOXIB implemented, that is speeches. And she is Paola Abenante, and she will give us an idea of the experience that she had within this schools, and the important role that we have to invest in the training of people to build a sustainable development. So thanks a lot, and thank you, Paula.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. So the school, the Master in International Cooperation and International Politics and Development, forms students on the latest issues and trends, and on the panorama of actors within the international development cooperation world, with an attention to both civil society and political institutions. So, and students range from youth to professionals. So the reach of the message is quite wide, both in the sense of forming new possible producers in society and forming also the consciousness of consumers towards a sustainable consumption. My personal experience is linked to my formation, so I'm an anthropologist, a researcher in anthropology, and I decided to enroll in the Master because I believe that social research, and in particular anthropology, has a lot to say concerning local understandings of sustainability, empowerment, both in the environmental and the economic and social sectors, and too often social research is not linked enough to policy orientations and to discussions on political level. So my intent was that of creating a link between my work in academia and a more applied domain. So I believe that the school gave me many paths, or the idea of the possibilities I have to make my knowledge of a needs-oriented approach dialogue with policies and concrete applications, in order to foreground, let's say, a needs approach to sustainability, a local understanding of sustainability, towards instead an understanding of sustainability directed by political interests rather than economic interests. So this is my experience within the school.
Okay, so thank you very much. I think that this is a good example on how we as FOXIP are working to strengthen this links between the cooperation and development sectors to the research and academic work sectors in order to join, to create a new approach to work for the creation of a sustainable development, keeping together all the different aspects that it implies, so the different disciplines and different values that we can keep from the different disciplines. So thank you very much. I know that there are 2 questions from Cairo.
Roberto.
And these questions are for Roberto. So his intervention was appreciated because he will ask to something. Okay, this is the questions. I will read. If overseas UNLUS is working overseas, do you find difficulties in communication with local farmers? This is the first question. And the second is, when you have research done, and actually where it is done in Italy or where it will be planted?
Okay. So regarding the first question, I have to say our approach to, let's say, to cooperation is that, as I told you before, we work directly with local NGO. So usually we don't have the direct contact with the farmers, with local farmers or cooperatives, but it's the local NGOs that work directly with farmers. Our role is to create link with, for example, in this case, with Professor Ceccarelli, that is an Italian professor that I met several times in Italy, and where we collaborate also in Italy with local farmers here. So as NGOs, as overseas ONLUS, we try to create the link between the local NGOs that deal with the farmers and the, let's say, international consultants that can support the local NGOs, like the local research center, to improve or to adapt these methodologies to the local context and situation. Because we know that a methodology or innovation that can work here in Italy is not, and could be a model, is not for sure, let's say, brought in a different cultural and environmental context without any step of adaptation. So this is the process. We work with local institutions that can help us to adapt the model at the situation there. The second question was, for example, the next Wednesday we will have a big meeting here in Bologna, is the city where I work, with almost 30 different farmers cooperatives and Professor Ceccarelli for a training session. So, and to understand the model. It's not easy to introduce this participatory breeding, and it's not easy to introduce without any fund, because, let's say, when a farmers decide to improve any type of research on his field, and we are talking of, let's say, marginal farmers, could be a risk for them, because if you start breeding, let's say, varieties of any type of legumes or of wheat, for example, you don't know the years after 1 year which will be the result. So it's very important to find some funds, in order to, let's say, make the risk a little bit little than because we are working with marginal farmers. So now we are implementing little by little, step by step, this methodology also here in our territory. So there will be some networking between the farmers, because it's also very important that the farmers can share and exchange their experience, information, and whatever. This is very important. I mean, because the farmers, they have the knowledge. There are some farmers that are more experienced than others, and they can help others to, and then could be, let's say, the presence of the university or the presence of a consultant that can monitor and follow up the methodology on the ground in the field. I hope I have answered in a good way.
Okay, thanks, Roberto. I think there is a little bit answer more, that is, how do you reach the local farmers?
Okay. we reach the farmers through the support of the local NGOs. I make you an example. We work with big NGOs in Palestine, that is PARC, and they usually work with local cooperatives of farmers. So when we decide to introduce an innovation like this, our local partner can select the farmers that are more, let's say, interested in introducing this methodology on their farm, and so is a type of selection that is done both collaborating between us and the local NGOs. For sure, it's very important to find farmers that, in a way, they are open to innovation. It is not always easy to find farmers that are open to innovation. It depends a lot on how you communicate the importance of this innovation, how you can explain them, for example, the problem they face day by day, for example, the lack of water, of irrigation facilities. You know, in Palestine is one of the main problems at the moment due by the conflict with the Israeli, but the climate change make the situation harder for the farmers there. So they understood that they have to find some seeds that can match with the situation, because since most of them, or the most marginal one, they don't have irrigation facility, they don't have any chance, or they quit farming in their land, or they start to look for some innovation. So in that cases, we can succeed to support that farmers.
Okay. I know that there is some questions on the role of FOXIP, and particularly you're asking for better explanation of the role of FOXIP as NGO in creating the integrated approach, and so between research and development to enhance innovation and better set local innovation. FOXIP is a federation, so here, as a federation, we more work on the lobbying and advocacy side, as our members, NGOs, work specifically on the ground. So, translating and experience what we are saying, because so creating this cooperation for implementing the projects between different actors, that is NGOs, innovation and technological institutions, and public institutions, of course, so involving public sectors in this. But this integrated approach is not so common in usually implementing the cooperation and development projects, because we have to understand that, especially in the NGOs world, we too much often work only between us. But now we need a change. Now we need to integrate this approach with other actors that could bring us their specific knowledges, in particular referring to the scientific and technological change, as we know that this element and the role of local innovation is central in order to build sustainable development. The intervention of Roberto clarified us how it's important to work on seed to respond to the consequence and the impact that the climate changes had on the land and on the ground. So we can't think to really look to the future without integrate this model to work and to operate on the ground. And so the other question is a bit difficult because you are asking the role of policy officer in FOXIP, if we really change policies. I don't know if we really change, but if we don't work to changes, we will never have any changes. So we know that the role of the work to guide and to influence the orientation of the international policies is central to create the better condition to have a sustainable and an effective impact on the ground. I mean that we can implement the better project that we can, but if this project is within an international legislative framework that will not support the intervention that we are doing on the ground, our impact will be really limited. So this is the importance of working together on the two sides, on the local level and on the ground, implementing the intervention and the projects, and on the political level. This is a process, of course, and as any process, it takes time. But we know that we have to work constantly to make this pressure, to increase this pressure and to guide the international policies to support our vision and our values to build a really sustainable development and a global world that could guarantee for all the human beings the access to land, the right to food, and so their own food democracy. So this is on our side the role of the policy officer, not only in FOXIP, but of course within all the NGOs, and that's why we are seeing that the work of the international network of lobbying and advocacy is really increasing every day. So there is another question for our responsible of the speeches. Who are the target group of the school and where they promote its programs? So I think that I can give the answer. Target group of the schools are, of course, as before our colleague Paula said, are both coming from the youth, so graduated or post-graduated students, and both coming, for example, from the operator of the NGOs that want to deepen some aspects of the international and cooperation policies. So I can say that we cover different ranges of people join to the common willing to be more aware of some issues and to better decide how we want to contribute to the building of a really global sustainable development and of a more just global justice. So I think that I hope I answered to the questions, and I would really like to thank again Reem and all the colleagues in Cairo. A special thanks, of course, to LVR, that is FOXIP members that give us the opportunity to join you in this project and in these initiatives of the MedSpring ScienceCafé. So thanks to all the colleagues of LVR, and thanks to Roberto, and thanks to the other colleagues here, Igor and Tommaso, who I repeat, give us the opportunity to join you and to discuss with you this interesting issues. And this is in a way a discussion of our future. So thanks you very much.